What's going on, guys? Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to build a Clapton coil. I'm Kenny. On this channel, I do vaping content and other content that revolves around my life, so if that's interesting to you, consider subscribing. This is going to turn into a series where I'm going to progressively build upon building principles, and hopefully if you're a new builder, you'll be able to follow along, and within a few of these episodes, you'll be off to the races building and teaching other people how to build. Before we jump into it, I want to cover a few things real quick. Number one, in the description, there will be links to where you can get involved in advocacy for our industry, so how to locate and contact your representatives, join CASA, sign petitions, all that information will be in the description. Please take a minute and actually use those links. We really need your help. Number two, I'm a little concerned about links in the description for products and things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a blog post that will have all the information about where to get all the different tools and materials and things like that. And then number three, before you start building, you need to learn a few things. Resistance, Ohm's law, things like that. Things I'm not going to get into in this video. So if you proceed into this video, know that this is just for educational purposes. I don't recommend you building unless you've thoroughly done your research about electricity, Ohm's law, and battery safety. There are plenty of resources online to learn those things. Do not start building without knowing your shit. This video wouldn't be possible without today's sponsor. That's Nirvana CBD. Hands down the best CBD I've ever tried and has really changed my life. Use code Sherlock at Nirvana CBD for 25% off your entire order. The link will be in the description, and we'll have more about them later. One of the most frequent questions I receive is about resistance, how to tell resistance, and I'll show you how I'm going to kind of approximate what I'm shooting for. Now, I know that I'm putting this build in the Ohana RDA, and that I want to shoot for like a 0.15 to a 0.2 build, somewhere around that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my vape tool, and I'm going to pick dual coil setup, pick the type. I'm using 22 gauge nichrome 80 for the inside, for the core, and for the outer wrap, I'm doing a 34 gauge nichrome 90. This coil can be built with any, like a whole different variation of wire. Just know that when you change the wire and the outer wrap wire, it's going to change your resistance as well as the type of metal it is. So Kanthal, nichrome, stainless steel, those are all going to change how it performs. So again, know your shit before you jump in. To address some other questions, I recommend Croc swivels or some other stainless steel ball bearings, meaning the actual ball bearings are stainless steel. And you can also use some like 3-in-1 or WD-40 in there to help those glide really nicely. Invest as much as you can in really high quality swivels. It pays dividends in the long run. Any old drill will work. This is like a less than $20 corded drill from Harbor Freight. I like the corded because they offer a higher RPM. I just like to build faster. Faster doesn't necessarily mean better. So keep that in mind, go slow as we're learning, right? A couple other necessities. Another thing worth investing in is a really good pair of flush cuts. I like the toothless pliers, so no teeth on these, just nice and smooth. The teethed pliers work fine, but I like the needle nose, and I like the bent needle nose as well. A nice pair of ceramic tweezers, and I have a little build kit here from Coil Master that I really like because of how portable it is. I broke the flush cuts in here, which is why I have these. And then I have a screwdriver that will help me build it, but also so I can set the inner diameter of the coil as I wrap it. I'm going to be using 3mm inner diameter today. And then there's also a pair of scissors for the cotton for later once we build and wick this RDA. These little pokey guys are great for stabbing yourself in the finger and brushing out cotton. Those are the basics of what you need. You don't need a whole lot else. Now, as far as setting up your station, I like working elevated off the table, but you don't have to. You can put a screw in a board and clamp that to a table, lie your drill flat on the table and work directly right out like an inch above the table, or any other means that you feel works best for you. I do, however, highly recommend that your swivels directly line up with the chuck of your drill, creating a nice parallel line to the table. I'm going for a 3mm inner diameter. As I said, I'm looking for 6 wraps on that 3mm diameter. Dual coil, so I'm gonna go with about 10 or 11 inches of core wire. And so that's the core that I will Clapton wrap the outer wrap on top of. And so for that, I'm going to be using 22 gauge nichrome from KB Vapes. I do like their wire quite a bit. And all I'm gonna do is pull off about 10 inches. And I'm gonna hold on to this to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. I'm gonna get about 10 inches. Don't be afraid to waste a little bit of wire. You know, it's better to have extra than not enough, for sure. I'm gonna clip it off, wrap my wire up so that doesn't go flying away. You don't want one of these to unspool. It sucks. So we have some kinks in our wire here, so we need to get those out. So what I'm gonna do is make a little L at the end of my core wire, 90-degree angle, and I'm gonna stick that in the chuck, in one of these, in between one of these teeth, and I'm gonna center this wire. So I want it dead center in the middle of the chuck. I'm gonna tighten it down. I'm gonna grab the other end with my pliers. I'm gonna pull it nice and tight and just twist. And so that's gonna straighten out the wire nicely. You can see I've got a little bit of a kink going on here. So what you can do with toothless pliers, if you have a set of toothless pliers, is grab lightly, put a little bit of pressure, and drag out. As you're twisting it, drag out. Just nice and light pressure, and that should get those kinks out. This doesn't have to be crazy perfect straight or anything like that, and if you twist the shit out of it, it'll snap off in the chuck, which we don't want. I'm gonna take a little break here to tell you about this video sponsor, Nirvana CBD. All the CBD that I get sent, and I get sent a ton of CBD, Nirvana CBD is by far the best. They offer everything from lotions to roll-ons, tinctures, capsules, gummies, and everything in between, all made from the highest quality broad spectrum CBD that's available. With Nirvana, you don't have to worry about you not getting what the label says is in there. It's extremely high quality, extremely premium, and if you go to nirvanacbd.com and use code Sherlock, you'll get 25% off your entire order. And they already have extremely reasonable prices, so you can save a ton of money right here. I don't have to be eating handfuls of ibuprofen every day. Like, I cannot stress enough how much of a difference Nirvana has made in my life. By supporting the sponsors of the content on this channel, you guys help me be able to provide this content for free to you guys forever. So thank you so much. And thank you to Nirvana for sponsoring the channel. Next step, I'm going to actually take it out of the chuck end because I always attach at the swivels first. And to do that, I'm just gonna pinch my swivels over here, put it through, and fold it. And I'm gonna grab like that and just twist. Doesn't need to be crazy, it just needs to be on there so it's not gonna move anywhere. The other end, I already have my 90-degree angle. If I didn't, I would make one and then I would stick it in the chuck. And again, pay attention to make sure that it's centered. You really want this centered. And from here, we are ready to start wrapping this. This is my outer wrap. I'm using Nichrome 90 by Mad Rabbit. Any brand will do, any wire is fine. They're almost all made in the same places anyway, so for the most part, all wire is almost identical. 34 gauge, I'm using 34 so you guys can actually see it without me having to pull out the macro lens. I use a little bit of gaff tape to keep my fine wire together. I'm gonna pull out my lead and I'm definitely being very careful not to let this unspool. I don't want this to go anywhere. Oh, another real quick thing to address before we get into this. If you're righty like I am, you would most likely be doing this, the drill here and your swivel station over here and using your right hand to control the wire as you're wrapping. For some reason, I learned the opposite way. I'm doing it as a lefty would, so all my wire control is with my left hand, which I don't know why I learned it that way, but that's just how I started and that's how I build now. But do it with your dominant hand. So it's like swap this setup if you're a righty. Now to get this started, I don't know if you can see it. Yep, I'm gonna feed my wire here just down into a space I can find in the drill chuck. And I just need this to grab. So it just kind of needs to be in there. The drill is moving clockwise. It doesn't really matter if you're going over or under with this wrap. It could be whichever way feels better for you. And I'm gonna hold the wire at 90 degrees, coming directly up to the core wire. I'm gonna hold tension on my core wire, making sure everything's nice and tight, not like yanking on it like crazy or anything like that, but just nice and easy. I'm gonna start wrapping the wire, holding it at 45 degrees, about 8 inches back. The longer back it is, the more play you'll have if you accidentally lean forward or backwards. For Claptons, fuse Claptons, things like that, you're gonna wanna stay at 90 degrees. And just as you're wrapping it, just slowly lead it all the way. If you accidentally back up over a section you already did, just reverse the drill, back it off, and start going again. If you have spacing, if you did too much spacing and they're not nice and tight, back it off, slow down, and start again. I'm holding the spool between my thumb and my middle finger, doing light pressure, but enough that it can easily unwind in my hand. I'm letting the motion of the drill pull the wire, and I'm just letting it do its thing. When I get to the end, I'm gonna grab my flush cuts, a nice, great, sharp pair of flush cuts, and go right up to the wire and snip it, taking special care not to let this unwind. So our coil is now finished. I'm going to take it out of the chuck on this side and give this side a snip, releasing it from the swivels. I'm gonna cut off that twisted end and cut off the 40 or the 90-degree angle on that side. Now be careful with Claptons. Sometimes they can be springy and kind of the core can like slide out on you. Just try to make sure it's nice and tight. As you're wrapping these coils up, sometimes the Clapton wrap can kind of start coming off. So one thing I like to do is kind of crimp each end. So I'll grab the pliers and just make sure I have the core wire in there and just crimp it. And I'll crimp this side as well. And that's just gonna prevent that wrap from sliding off the core wire on me. Next thing I'm gonna do is grab a 3mm coiling tool. So this could be a coiling jig, a screwdriver, anything that you know is 3mm. And I'm gonna give myself nice long leads because I know I definitely have enough material here for 2 coils. I'm gonna push really hard with my thumb, so I'm holding that on there, and I'm just gonna start bending it over. And I'm trying to keep everything nice and straight, and I'm just pulling with a bunch of tension and just wrapping the coil. And you're just gonna go around. There's 3 wraps that I'm seeing, 4, 5, and 6. So I'm going all the way. That's what we're looking like right now. So what I like to do is kind of hold the actual coil, pull back a little bit on this, then take my pliers and grab it where they cross over each other. I'm gonna pinch and twist the pliers up, and that's gonna give me 2 leads just like that. So what I can do now is give this a snip, and there's one finished coil, and then I'm gonna crimp this end so I don't have any issues with the wrap coming off, and do the same process all over again for the second coil. So there are our finished Clapton coils. Now let's take a look at installing them. I'm gonna open up the post inside of there. All right, because this is a postless RDA, I kind of need to guess on the lead length on this. So I'm just gonna take some material off on each and kind of go from there. I leave them both on the same screwdriver post like this so I can line up the leads and cut them all the same size. That's looking pretty good so far. And then so I'm gonna end up bending these in, but since I have these in, I'm gonna hold them down and then tighten the leads so they don't move as I tighten these down. You always wanna make sure that your post screws are tightened down nice and tight. You don't want them loose and not making good contact. All right, I'm gonna take our 3mm inner diameter, stick it in the coil so it maintains its shape, and bend it in a little bit. As I'm building on the actual mod, instead of like a little build station or something, I don't have any batteries in here because I don't want to accidentally fire this. So I can do a little bit of shaping and molding here, making sure nothing is touching. I don't want the coils touching, and I don't want the coils touching anything other than the posts that they go into. So now we're gonna grab our ceramic tweezers. Our resistance right now is reading 0.13. That could change as we go through the preheat process. I'm looking for a nice even glow from the middle out, and so to get there, I'm making sure there's no hot spots like there are on here. See, the bottom's heating up faster. So what I like to do is kind of just pull on these a little bit, make sure they're all separate, and I'm just gonna work at them. Some people like to strum them. You can kind of just wiggle them about, and eventually, after just working on them, they're gonna heat up nice and even from the inside out, and that's exactly what you want to see, just like that. Our resistance is settling down at 1.6, which is beautiful and exactly where I want it to be for this mod in this build. I'm gonna cut a strip of cotton. This is where you can use your finger impalers to kind of stuff the cotton down in the wick holes. You want just enough wick to generally touch the bottom of the juice well, the bottom of the deck. That'll give you really good wicking. Yeah, right there. I'm gonna grab some Hometown Hero Crispy Treat, my favorite juice ever. HometownHero.com. Throw a little juice on, warm them up. To warm that juice up, get it good and saturated. I want these wicks nice and juicy. Oh yeah, we're getting there. We are getting there. The Clapton coil is like the first step on your coil building journey. The techniques, principles, and everything like that you've learned with this build lay the foundation for every other build that you've ever seen. These principles will be used in all those other builds. All the crazy high-end builds all stem from these basic principles. And with this series, I'm gonna walk you through that whole process. We're gonna start here and end up at like corrugated, crazy, fat, crazy builds. So make sure you have that notification bell turned on so you get notified when I post new videos. If you have any questions about this build, anything I missed, comments, concerns, leave them in the comments down below and I will get back to you there. And if you liked this video, you found it helpful, make sure you like that smash button, get subscribed, hit the bell so you get notified when I post new content. Huge thank you to Nirvana for sponsoring this content, making it possible that I can bring it to you guys. And thank you for watching. I'm Kenny, and I will see you in the next video.